We did take some time to record around the holidays, but now that it is post-holiday, how are we feeling?
Relaxed. I was starting to feel that sense of relief when we got the passing bomb on Christmas Eve, and now there's just a sense of relaxation. I'm not saying I'm happy with the Mariners offseason as a whole. They still need to do more. They still need to go add, but to just have Garver into the fold, to see them make a signing, to see them improve the offense, this is a good sign, and I'm feeling good about it.
I was a little disappointed, though, in some of the other response. I think we were trying to gauge an early response when we recorded our emergency episode on Christmas Eve about that it didn't seem like it was a consensus like from a lot of Mariners fans. And man, I'm going to say like that rings true as ever 48 hours later. I think there was a lot of skepticism in this trade, and there's a lot of, to go back to a point we made in the Christmas Eve episode, which is like, you guys can't just keep saying if he's healthy. You guys can't keep saying that because that's such a hypothetical. And that's not how you should think. You should be signing a player who's not, that you don't have to say if he's healthy. Well, I hate to break it to you guys, but we assume every player's production on the roster if they're healthy or not. Like, that's it. Julio, if he's healthy, is an American League MVP candidate. You know what happened in his rookie season? He wasn't an MVP candidate because he was hurt for 30 games. Like, that's the point, guys.
Also, I understand Garver has flaws. We understand Garver has flaws. There's a reason he's costing $12 million a year, not 30. But let's also give yourself a little bit of a reminder here, Teach. There are people if you're gauging responses off social media, there are people in our comments that said, I don't want Shohei Ohtani. So, of course, there's people that say, I don't want Mitch Garver.
And this signing that it has now come to light. I mean, we envisioned this when we again recorded that emergency episode, but now ringing true more than ever after it's been reported by multiple beat writers, talked about on MLB Network, etc., that Garver, the plan for Garver is to DH. Like, that is going to be his role, and it is going to be almost out of necessity to try and keep him healthy. Ryan Divish, I think, reported that they're only going to catch him if it's an emergency. There's not going to be this scenario where, okay, Garver's going to be the lefty masher of the catchers, and he's going to be behind the plate every time there's a lefty on the bump. No, that's not going to be the case. Garver is not going to be behind the plate whenever there's a lefty on the bump. I would be pretty shocked at this point after seeing some of the response if Garver's behind the plate more than 15 times. That even seems a little high.
What we learned in the last couple of days, and what Divish just said on MLB Network today, it confirmed for everybody. Sebi Zavala, barring injury, is going to be on the roster, and Mitch Garver is not going to be catching a lot. He's going to DH. That's pretty set in stone, which is okay, because you know why Garver's missed a lot of time over his career? He does spend a lot of time behind the plate. He's never been a full-time DH. He's been asked to catch. If he really only DHs here in Seattle, again, this is on the idea that he stays healthy, but you have to think if he's only going to DH, his chances of playing close to a full season go way up.
It would be kind of skeptical of the Mariners if they ever planned on putting him behind the plate, because it would be almost too much of a risk to spend $12 million on somebody. I mean, let me just list some of these injuries: forearm surgery, intercostal strain, which is your ribs. He has knee, groin, and back problems. Like, that's not someone you want back there for, I don't know, say he's the backup catcher. He'd be back there for 50 games in a season. Do you want him to have 50 games worth of wear and tear on that body? No, not really. You want to get your money's worth with Mitch Garver. So that's going to be the case. He's going to be in the lineup, I would imagine, versus both lefties and righties. However, something we didn't really highlight, and again, we highlighted back on our off-season wish list of what Mitch Garver did in 2023. He's a lefty masher. He mashes lefties. Though I will say, Lyle, when we decided to re-highlight this point, it's not that he doesn't hit righties. Like, let me remind people, here's the two opposites of Mitch Garver's 2023 season. Against lefties, he walked 6% more of the time than he struck out, and he had an on-base percentage of .500 against lefties. That's pretty bonkers to start with, right? And you'd be like, wow, how could you be better against righties at that point? Well, he didn't actually hit a single home run against lefties all season long. He hit all 19 of his home runs against righties. So the power was against righties. The on-base pedigree was against lefties. The WRC plus against lefties was 170. Against righties, it was 127. So pick your poison. He's going to be in the lineup against both.
Isn't that kind of wild that he didn't hit a single home run against the Southpaw this past year, but he WRC plus 70% above league average? That's pretty wild. You don't usually see guys put up numbers like that without home runs.
No, you don't. And it was kind of odd because he still struck out a decent amount versus right-handers, so not seeing the ball quite as well. Meanwhile, against lefties, his strikeout rate was 14%. 14%. That's pretty silly.
I like that. So he's contact against lefties. He's power against righties. Pick your, like you just said it perfectly. Pick your poison. Mitch Garver is going to bring some element of threat to the plate, no matter who's on the mound, lefty or righty.
And again, this still leaves the door open for Cal to hit versus both lefties and righties. And this brought back up the point where people, I think, were kind of discounting Cal as a right-handed hitter. He's like a perfectly fine right-handed hitter for a catcher. Like the bar for catchers hitting is not that high. And I think Cal clears it on both sides of the plate. I think we'd prefer him to hit lefty, but if he needs to hit righty, that's perfectly acceptable for Cal Raleigh. And it doesn't mean the Mariners need to force Mitch Garver behind the plate just to be like, oh, he has a 170 WRC plus. Well, you know what? Given how the Mariners roster is right now, he can still DH versus righties and lefties. No problem. It's not like there's anyone going to take his job.
We said there was two big things we wanted to rehash here on this show. We wanted to talk about Mitch Garver's success against lefties and his overall dominance at the plate when he's on the field, which we did months ago when we highlighted him. But the second point we wanted to bring up, which we did not bring up in our reaction show on Saturday, is this is the Mariners' most expensive position player signing in the Jerry Dipoto era. They did it. They actually have now one-upped in the past 2 years. AJ Pollock last year, the 1 year for $7 million, which was a new high. It was a new high last year, and now they've blown it out of the water with a big, fat 2 year, $24 million extension for Mitch Garver. That is the most money Jerry Dipoto has ever paid a position player since he got to Seattle in free agency.
3 times as much.
Unreal.
That is pretty unreal. And it's only the 4th multi-year deal they've ever given out under him. The list is pretty sad. Do you think you could guess the other 3?
I was going to say, I think I can get this. So this includes pitchers, right?
Yes, it does.
And are we including in-house extensions or just free agency?
Just free agents.
Okay, so we've got Garver. We've got Robbie.
Yep.
We've got... Oh, no. I've got those two.
It took me a minute to think of these last night. They are a little bit under the radar, and guys you don't expect would garner a multi-year deal.
Who did they get in 2017? Did they bring any free agents around that time? Am I around the time period?
No, later.
How am I blanking on this so badly? Starting pitchers?
One was a big part of the Shohei Ohtani rumors.
Oh, wait, no. I was going to say D. Gordon, but that was a trade.
No. Big part of the Shohei rumors. He might have rented out a restaurant.
Oh, duh. Okay, Kikuchi. There we go.
You got one more.
Is it around the same time period?
2 years later.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say Kikuchi. That is kind of a unique one because that was right in the middle of the rebuild, yet they still signed him. That was like the first real year of the rebuild. So 2021. Hitter or pitcher?
Pitcher.
Man, I'm struggling with this. Why am I struggling so badly with this?
Do you want me to just tell you?
Yeah, go ahead. Give it to me.
It's Chris Flexen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay, so I was going to say, those last two were not like snap of the finger, I'm going to get it right away. Maybe I should have gotten Kikuchi, but yeah, Flexen.
Yeah, I had to double check because it was 4. I'm like, so was it Flex? Yeah, Flexen got a 2-year deal. And to think those are the only 4 ever in 8 years that they've signed to a multi-year deal. It's pretty staggering to look at.
That is staggering. They do not spend a lot of money in free agency, that's for sure. And again, this isn't including the trade for and extending Luis. This isn't including Julio. But, yeah, I mean, what do they say, right? Draft, develop, and trade, like it or not, that is how they operate. And those 4 signings highlight it perfectly.